Hello, my lovely friends, my dear audience. Welcome to the East West Show, Jack Zhao with G&E TV. For many years, we tried to do our best to bring necessary information that we believe you need to be informed of. Me and my whole team trying very hard. Today is one of the very, very, very special days to my honor and honor of my whole team that we have our VIP, I call VVIP, Dr. Judy Chu, Congresswoman of 27th District of the United States, visiting us. Congresswoman Judy Chu, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Oh, our pleasure. You know what? We are not crying for wolves. Unless there's really a crying baby, I will not bother you. I know you have a busy schedule, very busy schedule. And I learned from your newsletter, I learned from website, learned from the public news on TV, whatever. You kind of like have events back to back.
Yes, yes.
Like, even including like this one. After this one, you're right heading into the next one, right? Make a long story short, I share this confusion with lots of my colleagues. At this very moment, we seem to be quite lost about this country, about what's happening, about what shall happen, where are we heading, so on and so forth. Take the recent incident at Charlottesville, for Virginia, for example. How would you please define what had happened in Charlottesville and what are happening across the nation as consequences, please?
Well, I don't think that we're lost. I think that many Americans are incredibly distressed because we have a president that has more or less defended white supremacists and KKK members. Because what happened in Charlottesville is that there was a move to take down the Robert E. Lee statue. Robert E. Lee represents the Confederates who in the Civil War wanted to have slavery. And there are vestiges, reminders that is, of this confederation of slavery all across, especially the South. So they want to take away those open reminders. They say, okay, put it in a museum, but it shouldn't be right in our town square. So they wanted to take it down. And the white supremacists, KKK, were upset. So they had a call to arms, and all these people came from all around the country with arms. Every single one of them was armed with a weapon, with some kind of shield. And they came to protest the taking down of the statue.
We saw Nazi signs,
That's
Nazi flags.
Actual Nazi signs and flags. And so they came marching down, and of course there were counter-protesters who felt that this was a terrible thing to have happen. So they were there. None of them were armed, actually. And there was a conflict. But the worst thing was that one of those white supremacists took his car and jammed it into the crowd of the counter-protesters who had no arms or anything, and this young woman who's just simply came to say we should not have a rally of white supremacists, she was killed. And she was only in her early 20s. So it's very, very tragic. The worst part of it is that the president said that both sides were to blame. And how this could be when only one side had arms and the other side had none, well, that was really horrendous.
That's exactly. Lots of people started to criticize President Donald Trump for his #1 late response, like 2 days waited for nothing. And once he broke up, when he spoke up, he says, quote unquote, not exactly quote unquote, literally saying that you both sides are violent, right? Without touching the white supremacies, the neo-Nazism, the slavery, or confederation and stuff like that. And I would say lots of people say this, and I need somebody help me to clarify. Say, rather than seizing that moment to unify people, seems to be kind of a splitting. Furthermore, you want to go into that a little bit, please?
So he has changed his position so often that people are getting whiplash, because actually immediately afterwards he said, well, both sides are to blame. Then he reads, just a day later, he reads a statement and it's, oh, we should unify. But obviously that was written by his staff. And then he has a spontaneous press conference in which he says, there are very, very fine people that marched with those white supremacists. Clearly, he feels that his supporters are the white supremacists. And in fact, David Duke, the head of the neo-Nazi groups, came out and said, you go, Donald Trump, I love what you have to say. So those are his fans, and Donald Trump is catering to those fans. We have never seen anything like this in our U.S. presidency of recent years. This is just totally unacceptable that he would actually praise and support white supremacists who are neo-Nazis, who basically would like to see all immigrants and minorities be suppressed.
Some of my friends even give this following comment, saying that and a statue is a statue, is history anyway. Like the Great Wall of China is just a construction there. It doesn't mean it is it's a sign of suppression, sign of exploitation. It's just a sign of history. That's it, right? So the statue of Robert E. Lee is almost the same thing. We were inclusive enough to have it go for 160 years already. All of a sudden, somebody would voted or resoluted to turn it down. My friends say there must be something behind it in the motion of doing it. Do you think so?
Well, did you know that in the late 1800s there were 17 Chinese people that were lynched in Chinatown of Los Angeles?
That was 82 of May 27th. Yeah.
And it was because there was a fight between two Chinese men over a woman, and a white person got accidentally shot. So 500 whites came through Chinatown, and they grabbed anybody that they could, including a doctor, including a young boy, and they lynched him, and it became the largest mass lynching in U.S. history.
The burned houses.
That's right.
And they hang the body over the light poles, and the cops captured 4 of them, and later discharged for no reason, whatever, right?
That's right. And what if they had a statue for the white person that did that, the leader of that? What if that was standing right in the middle of, Chinatown?
Yeah, that's a crime.
Well, would we like that?
No, we wouldn't. We wouldn't.
Every day in which we saw something like that, we would feel our heart sink.
All right, okay. So in other words, the resolution to turn it down was kind of no other purpose behind it, just to say we can't take that anymore.
Right, exactly.
Very good. In other words, it's a good decision. The good decision got rebounded by the white supremacists, and then there comes the counter protesters. That's the whole thing. It's rather simple, right? Why is it is now this complicated? Given any, I would like to put it this way: anything when it comes to birth that has a reason. A baby came to birth because you have 9 months of pregnancy, right? So how about if we take a moment out, when we come back, we dig into the background, the environment, the kind of incubator, if there is one, about it, of course. How about that?
Okay.
Oh, very good. My dear friends, my lovely audiences, today is my pleasure to have Congresswoman Judy Chu visiting the studio. Me and my team feel very, very flattered. We want to do a better job to serve you, to bring you information we believe that you deserve. Stay with us. We'll be right back, please. Hello, my dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, my dear fellow Americans, welcome back to the show. Today is one of the very rare moments. Out of busy schedule, we have Congresswoman Judy Chu visiting the studio. Once again, Congresswoman, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
All right. And like I said, I have a quote, my famous quote. There's a crying baby, bring the baby to the mother. Right. In this case, it's about our Congress, right? Here you're from the Congress. Okay, what's wrong with the Congress? So, crying baby to the mother, like that kind of thing. Okay, we were on the Charlottesville issue. With the Charlottesville, from the news perspective, we just let it pass. We turned the page over. And for the consequences, okay, turn the pages over. And the third page could be our aftermath, our after-event thinking or lessons, right? For that, I have a question for you, please. Looking into history, under what circumstances were slavery, white supremacy, the neo-Nazism, and the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan, were given birth to, and why they are coming back now?
So we have had a society that has taken a long time to come together and be united. And there have been different waves of difficult times. There was the influx of the Chinese immigrants who came to build the railroads. And they came seeking a better life, and there was plenty of work here on those railroads. But because of their influx and because of the downturn of the economy, they became the scapegoats. And as a result, there were massacres. There was a whole number of laws that came out against the Chinese, such as the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882, which deprived the Chinese of being able to immigrate and also of becoming naturalized citizens, and it was so that they could not vote. And that lasted for 60 long years.
Landowner, property owner, no. Like that, right?
They also could not be property owners. They could not buy land. And also there was within it a law which said that they had to carry papers on them at all times, and even if they were legal, if they didn't have those papers on them, then they could be deported.
We're doing that now anyway.
Yes, that's right.
In Texas, people do.
Yeah, well, those are the kind of laws that they're trying to implement again. So we do have these waves, and of course we had the large number of immigrants that came in the 1920s. There was a backlash against them. We have had instances all throughout history where those who have had the least power, the disenfranchised, were scapegoated. And certainly we had that during the time of slavery. We had so many African Americans that came here. Of course, they were kidnapped in Africa and then given the worst treatment, and were not their own people. So we have a difficult history, and it's taken a long time for us to be able to come together as a nation. Just think, it took all that time till 2008 for our U.S. government to elect an African American president. But that was a sign that our country had gone to a certain place where people from all ethnic backgrounds and from all over the nation could vote to have our first African American president. All right. So we are trying to be a nation where we do, as the Statue of Liberty says, welcome the tired, hungry, and poor.
Yeah, sure.
But sometimes we take a step backwards.
And does that mean that history itself, from every now and then, has to repeat, make some comeback, right? And so on and so forth, till the year of 2008, when it comes to a point that U.S. citizens, Americans, decided to have a person of color. They were actually not ready. Am I right?
So some people in our society were not ready for that.
All right.
And those were kind of like the silent minority. Those in certain parts of our country.
Those supremacies, those slavery proactives, those Nazi neo-Nazisms, they were there, I believe, year 2008.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, yes.
Only given the circumstances, right circumstances, they all come back. What is the right circumstances?
So, when President Trump came to power, that gave these white supremacists and neo-Nazis the courage to come out and be very, very open about their beliefs. So now you see them marching against the takedown of any symbol of confederation, of the Confederacy. You see them also actually coming out and attacking Muslims. You see them coming out and attacking immigrants. And in fact, talk about Asian Americans. There was an instance only a few months ago where two Indian engineers were sitting in a bar in Kansas. They were just, having a conversation amongst themselves.
Yes, yeah.
And a white man comes and just shoots them. And close in time to that was in the state of Washington, where a Sikh American was just standing in his own driveway fixing his car when a white man came up to him and shot him. And in both instances, the white men shouted, "Go back to the country, go back to where you came from."
Yeah.
Well, actually, they could shout that to any of us and say, "Go back to where you came from." But you know what?
Yeah.
This is the only country I know. This is our country.
Yes. And this is not a phenomenal. This is for quite some time already. Even our own people right now, starting from talking about, we mentioned Texas, we mentioned in Arizona, people have to carry their document all the way. And even now, the County of Los Angeles, the state of California, arguing about the federal money for being a sanctuary city or sanctuary state. So those are the things you mentioned. Thank God you mentioned that. That's the Statue of Liberty. That spirit that represents America, for say, give to me all these, your hollow masses yearning for free.
Yeah.
Right? To breathe free. All these, right? Out of your teeming shore, I raise the lamp beside the golden door. Those kind of things are totally lost. Does that mean altogether it creates a culture? I'm very sorry I used the word culture. A culture that gives birth to all these.
That is right, because it starts from the top. President Trump has said many things that indicate intolerance. The border wall is the symbol of it.
All right.
It's a border wall of separation and division. But he's gone even beyond that. He wants to have mass deportations out of this country for people that have lived here 10, 20 years, even for our DreamAct students who came here as young people.
Yeah, that will talk.
And for whom this is the only country they know.
That we will touch when we talk about the immigration part right now. I still want to focus about the character of our lovely President Donald Trump. I share this with your assistant. I said, okay, I didn't vote for him, but once he became the President of the United States, by following the constitutions, I know we have a President of the United States, and I got to respect. I got to, well, he's the one anyway, right? Hoping, keeping for fingers crossed, doing things better. I believe he knows what he's doing. I believe if he doesn't know, his team might have. If his team does not know, his party will have. But things now we're talking about from this point, when look at him, I would say a lot of my friends have the impression he's kind of frivolous. Whatever he wants to say, says it. Whatever he wants to done, he does it. So what's your impression about it? Is my president and your president, everybody's president, right? We hate to say so, but I would like to hear from you. You want to go into it a little bit?
He's a very, very impulsive person.
Impulsive, that's the word.
And he also has a very, very big ego. So you combine those two, and this is why he continuously has rallies with his supporters where he says the ugliest things. And just in the rally that he had recently, he lashed out. He lashed out at his fellow Republicans, Senators McCain and Senators Flake. He lashed out at the media. He lashed out at the counter-protesters at Charlottesville. And
Mitch McConnell.
Yeah, McConnell. Yeah, that's right. He needs, by the way, the Senate pro tem. He needs
I know,
the Senate in order to actually come through with the promises that he made.
Why would he bite the finger that feed him?
I know.
So that's exactly wrong. And remember, I exactly noticed when USS John McCain got collided with another vessel whatsoever, when the very minute when he was briefed, he says, that's not bad. The exact word, that's not bad. 10 minutes later, when the news repeat themselves, that part was omitted. In other words, he did say that, but not good. So they both decided, okay, let's just omit it. And he didn't say anything like that, right? So, in other words, the lips kind of loose, little loose. As a president, I'd rather wish that we have a president with the tight lips, in case you make a mistake. Even me, as a show host, I always look whatever I shoot and I see, okay, now, here I should my lips should be a little tighter.
Well,
do you agree?
He has a combination of being impulsive and a huge ego. So he cannot take anything that he perceives as an insult. And as a result, anybody that stands up to him, he feels that he needs to insult. So example, with the Charlottesville situation, the president or CEO of Merck, an African-American gentleman, the highest ranking executive of a big company like that, said that he was going to resign from his council. So he resigned from that business council.
He did resign.
And immediately, President Trump insults him. But actually, I think his impulsive nature is very, very dangerous. And just look at the case of North Korea. He decided that he has to look bigger than Kim Jong-un.
You're talking about...
so he's going to insult them.
If that happens.
He's going to insult, and he's going to insult another person who's unstable.
That's what lots of people are afraid of, right? My dear audiences, today with me is my good friend, and I'm myself proudly to share the fact that we are cross-city neighbors. Very good. So Congresswoman Judy Chu visiting the studio, sharing some thoughts. And let's take a very short moment now. When we come back, we will continue finding more. Please. Hello, my dear friends, my lovely audiences. Welcome back to the show, Jack Chow, with the G&E TV. Now we have the pleasure of being visited by Congresswoman Judy Chu of the 27th District of U.S. Congress. Previously 32, right?
Yes.
32. And we know her from all the way from the Garvey School Board, all the way to Montreal City Council, and all the way to Board of Equalization, and all the way to Assembly House of California, all the way to Congress of the United States. and I believe next house is the Senate.
Yeah.
Could be. All right. Anyway, so we are talking about altogether, given the history point of view, given all the things discussed, when all these happened, do they ring a bell to you? If they do, what kind of bell? Please.
Well, I would say that President Trump is bringing us to a time back in history when we did not have rights, when people were so divided. So he's having us walk backwards. That's what rings a bell for me.
We're going backward.
Yeah.
We're going backward.
Exactly.
That's very risky. Well, I have to jump to next question because if I linger too much here, I won't finish. I have a schedule here. I know you're busy, right? Okay, next one about Obamacare. Obamacare has been a talk for about ever since, right? Even from the campaign trail all the way to now, 8 months plus whatever years, talking about Obamacare overturned, trial after trial, version after version, they failed. My friends who wrote me asked that why would Trump and the Trump administration fail?
So actually, talking about going backwards, there is a theme here.
All right.
Because President Trump is trying to bring us backwards on health care. Because of the Affordable Care Act, we finally got to a situation where the vast majority of Americans were able to get health care.
Okay, 22-something million covered.
Yes, that's exactly right. 20 million more got covered through the Affordable Care Act. And as a result, so many more people got relief. And there were numerous ways in which this was done, expanding Medicaid, making sure that somebody with a pre-existing condition could get health care instead of being denied. So all those things provided hope for people. President Trump has wanted to take us backwards and do away with it. They wanted to put forth a repeal and replace bill. Well, an interesting thing happened when President Trump got elected because Republicans took over the House and the Senate.
Both majorities.
Of the House and Senate and of the presidency. So you'd think, now's their time to do that, repeal and replace.
Exactly.
But the most interesting thing is, number one, they did not have a plan. They scrambled. Number two, they had deep divisions.
All right.
So amongst their caucus, they had the moderates and they had the deep conservatives, the Tea Party conservatives. And so the moderates thought it would be very harmful to take away this Medicaid expansion, Medi-Cal, because so many of the people in their districts or in their state depended on it. And it would be a big hit to them. And then the conservatives didn't like the bills that were being put forth because it wasn't conservative enough. They wanted to take away even more health care. And so that deep division made it very difficult for them to reach consensus. Finally, by twisting arms, they were able to get a bill out of the House. But when it got to the Senate, the situation got even worse.
Even worse, and the domestic fight even severe.
Well, they could not bridge the gap between these different people. And as a result, that night, only on the last week of July, there were two senators that were Republicans that already said no, and they joined the Democrats. That was Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski. And then they only had one vote that they needed. And who comes into the chamber at midnight? It was Senator John McCain.
Okay, John McCain says no.
He walks all over the chamber for an hour, and then of course there was that big moment. He turns to the parliamentarian and goes, no.
Like that.
It was that one vote that killed this whole effort.
Lots of people felt lost. My audience used to, they kind of like send me emails for questions for shows like this, because I advertise it beforehand. They say, yeah, please ask Judy Chu about this, about that. And then one of the questions is this. Say, like a little magic trick, if you have a ball, you have two hands, you flip it, which hand, right? And I go ahead to guess. I win, I lose, is all my own problem. But you have to have a ball, right? In this case, Obamacare is no good. Okay, what is yours? You don't have a ball, all right? So my audiences who send me this, are we cheated?
Well,
are we being bullied? Those are the questions about this no ball situation.
You mean bullied by who?
By the Donald Trump administration. When they want to overturn a plan, they do not have a plan to overturn
That's
with.
right. That's right. Yeah.
In other words, you have to have a ball to let me guess, right? You don't even have a ball. You want me to guess what? So, so they say we are bullied. We are cheated.
Yeah, we are. We are being bullied.
So what's your take, please?
So, well, thank goodness for John McCain, because Senator McCain said a very important thing. He said we should have regular order, which means that if you're going to change something, you should have hearings, you should hear from the experts, you should hear from the consumers,
you're right.
And you should be able to have amendments from both sides, Democrat and Republican, to make that bill a good bill.
And let the public know.
Exactly. They did not. Did you know that that final Senate bill was actually written in a small room like this, where they shut the doors?
Nobody has seen it.
13 men.
Yeah.
Not even women. 13 men in a room writing this. And then they put it right out on the floor.
Yeah. Nobody has seen it. And then there's like the magic ball thing.
That's you're right.
Right.
And they're saying, trust me.
Yeah,
the ball.
Trust me, I'm the good guy.
Yeah.
All right, like that. Okay, I got to move on very fast. Yeah, about tax cut, we don't see tax cut. About immigration, we don't see any immigration talking about the fact that we have 11 or 12 million undocumented here who are already rooted, who have already life established, right? And we don't see anything. All of a sudden, we see a existing immigration system cut for 50%. That's question number 2. Question number 3, which is a bigger question. When we come back after this little break, I want to put together to ask you, probably you have a solution. What is wrong, either politically or mathematically or physically or chemically, I don't know, whatever. When somebody controls the majority of both houses, nothing could be ever passed. What is wrong? So how about that?
Yeah.
All right. Let's take a very short moment out, my dear friends. Today with me is my good friend, my personal friend. I claim that Judy Chu, Congresswoman, Dr. Judy Chu, visiting us, sharing her thoughts. Let's take a very short moment out. When we come back for the last segment, we want to put everything together to get it to the conceptual level, to see what is happening or what is wrong, what is so right, what is so whatever. We don't know. We need education. Stay with us, please. Hello, my dear friends, my lovely audience, and welcome back to the show, Jack Chow with East West with G&E TV. Today, we are especially honored to be visited by Congresswoman Judy Chu of the 27th District of Congress, United States. Yes, lots of discussed, lots of facts, blatant facts laid upon the table, so people can see themselves. People can make their own judgment if they have a brain plus an IQ of 30 plus, something like that, right? They can make judgment themselves. I only throw the balls here. Question is, through the campaign trail all the way, tax cut, immigration. When the word immigration brought up, it doesn't refer to the immigration system, whatever, reformation, or the existing immigration problem information and the walls, right? We don't see the wall. Where is the wall? Where is the foundation of the wall, or line of wall, or blueprint of the wall, or a budget of the wall, any picture of the wall, right? And then you're talking about text cut. Where's the text cut, so on and so forth. And all together, plus what you have highlighted so far, for somebody who controls both majority of both houses, how come nothing gets passed? What's wrong, basically, fundamentally?
Well, it is so interesting to watch the Republicans and to see how deep those divisions are amongst them. So clearly there's little agreement. We saw that with the Obamacare repeal and replace. But I'm actually also seeing that with the tax reform issues, because there already was a huge disagreement over something called the border adjustment tax. Speaker Ryan wanted to put forth this border adjustment tax, which would say don't tax any of the exports and instead tax all the imports. Well, there was a lot of yelling and screaming from companies like Target, which does a lot of importing. And if they had to raise prices on their goods, that would be passed on to the consumers.
I see. Oh, yeah.
So the White House said they weren't going to support that. So already there was a clash there, and it's only recently that they said, okay, we're not going to do a border adjustment tax. So those kind of disagreements are continuing. So I would say that there is not a very solid plan amongst the Republicans in terms of how they're going to accomplish these things. And actually, I would have to say that the Republicans in Congress have to cope with President Trump's wild promises. For instance, the border wall.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, let's look at the border wall. He said we should have a border wall because that it would be paid by Mexico.
Yeah.
Of course, that's insane.
Yeah, go ahead and do something, make them pay. That's it.
But guess what? Now he wants to put $1.6 billion into the budget. In other words, he wants to force the American taxpayers to pay $1.6 billion for the border wall. And he even said in this most recent rally that he would be willing to shut down government in order to do that.
Oh yeah, he says that. And the thing is that for basic logic, when you say something, you want better stick to it, right?
Yeah.
That's your promises. Or if you do not want to lose face, you try to be quiet, let time take care. People might forget, right? Like that. Well, we try to be nice with people, right? Why don't you put it up all the way? One flag green, the other flag red, and then people see both. For comparison, who are you? Like that. Kind of slamming on their own face, am I right? So why would the party support their president? Why would the House or the Senate House support the majority? So I'm talking about they can balance themselves. Why? What makes it so obvious that they can't balance themselves?
Well, I do have to say that they are trying to cope with President Trump's wild demands, and then they have their own disagreements amongst themselves. Some fairly severe divisions amongst themselves. So that's why they can't seem to get themselves together. I would just hope that we work on a bipartisan basis. I actually have an example of something that was successful on a bipartisan basis, and that was the last time tax reform was done. That was in 1986. Can you imagine? That many years ago was the only time that we had successful tax reform, but it was successful because it was done on a bipartisan basis.
All right, okay.
They brought both Democrats and Republicans together.
All right.
It was under President Ronald Reagan. And they put forth measures to accomplish a goal, which was to streamline the tax system.
Okay.
And they were successful.
So can that be copied? Can that be copied,
Yes.
or can that be duplicated?
That's what should happen. There should be bipartisan efforts again, what we call regular order, where you actually have hearings, you hear from the experts, you hear from all sides.
Okay.
You let both parties come together and come up with the best plan possible.
All right, give that a little time. Let's move to immigration. What do you think about his reason, the immigration vow for the 50% cut of green card so far?
It is very, very alarming, and it will hurt Asian Americans. So basically what he is proposing is that we not only deport the 11 million that are undocumented, but that we also cut legal immigration to this country in half.
Yes, yes.
And what he wants to do is to change our immigration system from a family-based immigration system to a merit-based immigration system. So for all these past decades, if you and I wanted to bring forth our relative from China or Taiwan, we petition.
We got a job to do in that case. We got to change the poem engraved at the Statue of Liberty. Yeah, give me your poor, your hollow masses yearning for breathing free, right? What's that? Give me your rich, your best, with the money, with the, like that kind of thing.
Well, under the merit-based system, you would be admitted only if you accomplished a high number of points on such things as speaking English, having a degree, having certain skills and all kinds of things like that.
If we can't do that, why they come here?
Well, that is true.
Yeah, why?
But I always use
They come here for help. They are pursuing for better life, right? With their given condition.
And how about this speaking English part? I always use this example, which is, did you know that Jerry Yang, when he first came here from Taiwan, didn't speak a word of English? And what he did go on to do? To found Yahoo.
Yeah.
He changed this country.
Yeah, that's cool. That's him.
Yeah.
That's him. So, well, all these together, we don't want to conclude the show with a bunch of gray ideas, gray hard, defeated. Do we have hope? If hope were, I really want you to highlight us. Where's the hope?
I am so hopeful about the future if we are able to get all the activism that we see out there focused on building a better future. I tell you, I was inspired when I went to the Women's March and the March for Science and so many marches actually in the last few months, because I saw ordinary people who before had not been involved, who came out and said, I have to do something about this situation. So there are a lot of people who are active now. So the thing is that we have to make sure that all together we work to build a better future for all of us.
Of course, that's quite necessary, but we need leaders. And between you and me, I don't have to scratch your back, but I say truth, I say about facts. You have the guts to remember sit in the ground with the protesters and got arrested.
Oh, yeah.
With the hotel workers.
Yeah.
When the whole years ago, many years ago, right? Hotel workers, when they protest for better working conditions, right? And for some reason, somehow, I mean, Judy Chu was amongst them, right? Somehow they went the limit about either time-wise or line-wise, whatever, that violates the city law, right? That has nothing to do with the theme of the protest. Judy Chu with them, there came the cop. And people say, run, you're an assemblywoman, run. No, she decided to stay. She stayed, got arrested with them, say, I want to go to jail with them. Because what's wrong has nothing to do with the theme. I'm here to protect the theme. That got lots of people, including me, convinced. We need that kind of leader. And remember AB 309?
Yes.
Right? That's your bill, right?
Right.
Okay. And she was passing by Alhambra somewhere, a auto shop, and some lady there with a sign protesting, and she found out the reason and created a bill, the AB 309, that goes against the lemonization of car deals.
Well, this lady was cheated by the car dealership who did a bait and switch.
So, now, altogether, I believe that we need some kind of leaders, right? And no matter the majority of the House, the majority of the Senate, majority minority or whoever, we need leaders. How do you think that we will, if the president is not doing a perfect job though, probably the leaders of the minority, majority in the houses can do something. How do you comment about my recommendation, please?
Well, I do think that we need to elect people who will work together and who will be productive, who want to do the best we can for the American people. What I'd like to do is have a group of legislators who would work together to make sure that there is a better deal for the American people. Better jobs, better wages, and a better future for all of us. Who would make sure that there is an infrastructure bill that would improve our highways and roads, and therefore there would be better jobs.
We've been too busy with the politics. We forgot our infrastructure. Infrastructure is a big headache.
Exactly,
Yeah.
but it would be so good for everybody. Of course, good for all of us who drive on them, but also good for the people who need the jobs.
Well, I had my last two questions, not ask, because we didn't have time. We don't have time. Well, my dear audience, I should say thank you for watching, but today's show is special, and I will post it on my own personal social network about how I feel about this interview. Thank you for highlighting on all the issues. I know you have a busy schedule. I do really have to let you go. I would have done it 5 minutes later. I'm 5 minutes earlier, right? So anyway, thank you very much for sharing. To my audience, we'll see you next time.